Welcome back to today's News Talk, TNT and the David Kurten Show. I am delighted to have with me in this section of the show, Terry Chalres. I know Terry, I must confess. He is a member of the Heritage Party and he's also the coordinator for Suffolk for the Heritage Party. Welcome to the show, Terry.
Hi, David. Thanks ever so much for having me on the show. It's quite an honour to be on your sort of like second week of the show. So fantastic.
Great to have you on, Terry. But you're really doing important work, actually, and in your area. And I know, many people watching the show are very concerned about Agenda 2030 and how it's been implemented and how it's trying to change life beyond all recognition. I mean, in your local area, what do you see happening at a local council level, which is trying to change the physical and the physical state of the neighborhoods that you and the towns that you live in?
Well, one of the things that I found since 2020, I started to attend a lot of local council meetings because I was hearing a lot of discontent from people in town. And so I started going to council meetings, and it was concerning what was going on, and councillors just going along with what they're being told by the local councils, and that worried me. So I looked a little bit deeper into it and started having dialogue with councillors, and some of them actually came back to me and said, "Keep doing what you're doing. You're making a change." And that actually worries me, David, because when a councillor says to a member of the public, "Keep on doing what you're doing, you're making a change," surely it should be the councillors doing this.
Right. Yeah, right. Why are they relying on you to make a change when they're in the position, they're elected, and they should be doing the things that need to be done?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I started sort of like looking into it a little bit deeper, and I kind of the way I was looking at the way the councillors are working is that they're not actually working for the people; they're actually working for the council, if you like, and the council should be working for the people. But it seems to be sort of like the other way around from where I'm looking at it, And so I started talking to local constituents when I was doing canvassing last year, and in the May elections. I was speaking to local people, and they said, I'm not going to bother voting because I'm so disillusioned by it all. And this is the problem that we've got at the moment: is people are voting, but they're looking at voting for either Conservative or Labour, and they do that because they don't want the other party to get in. So rather than looking for the party they want, they're looking to vote for the party they don't want. Which is a bit blinkered, really.
Yeah.
If I'm disillusioned, if I'm disillusioned by Labour, why vote Conservative when we're two wings off the same bird?
Well, I mean, this is almost like a psychological operation. What I was talking to Miri about in the last section is that people vote negatively. They vote for somebody because they want to keep somebody worse out, rather than voting for someone that they actually positively want to go in to the council who would represent them. But you stood yourself, didn't you, in the elections last May? How was that standing as a candidate?
I found it very eye-opening, if I'm honest with you. I found it very eye-opening. I had people from the other side of town that said, I would hand some of your flyers out. And so they did. Now, what concerned me was that people were saying, well, I don't know him, so I'm not going to vote for him because I don't know him. Well, how many people do they know in the Conservative or Labour or even the Lib Dems? So they tend to vote for the party rather than the person. And so this is one of the reasons why I joined the Heritage Party, because ever since I've known you, David, you've stuck by everything you've said. You've not backtracked. Every other party that I've looked at, they've all changed tact at some point in order to get the votes. And what the Heritage Party is standing for is for transparency and integrity. We've stuck by, and we've not changed our views on anything. Everything stayed the same, even
Yeah,
even at, even at the risk of not getting the vote.
right. I think it's important. When I started it 4 years ago, wrote the manifesto, I thought I'm just going to put everything there, regardless of whether it's popular or not, because people deserve to see what we stand for. And I'm just going to put everything out there, even if it's unpopular. And because, some people like it and they want to vote for a party like us. I mean, I don't have any hesitation to say we're a socially conservative party. And we have Christian principles, even though we're not specifically Christian party. We have Muslims in the party, Hindus in the party, whatever. But but also, we're against this globalist agenda. We're for freedom. We're against Agenda 2030 and the whole climate agenda and all that's the way that's being manifest in 15-minute cities and bike lanes and the war on cars as well, which I think everybody can understand. I mean, where you are in Suffolk, do you see restrictions coming in on using your car, for example?
Yes, we're seeing it all the time. We're getting roads that are being sort of like closed off for no reason. This started around the COVID pandemic. The plant has been put in place. No, there was no consultation with the public, but these things are put in place. And when we talk about climate problems, what we've got, if you put planters down, what we used to call rat runs.
Yeah.
If you put planters there, what are you actually creating? You're actually creating more congestion because the traffic only has one route to go down. And so it's almost like they're trying to create this problem so they can sort of like solve the problem.
Yeah, this is happening all over the place. I mean, you see pictures of these massive planters, so a car can't drive down them. In London boroughs, in Bath, in Exeter, in Oxford, in your place in Suffolk, and this is really dangerous, actually, because if a fire engine wants to get through, they can't. If an ambulance wants to get through, they can't. It seems like no one's actually thought about this. And, they're making the cars go another 2 miles to get, what might have taken them 100 meters before. But also ambulances and fire engines and tradesmen's vehicles, business vehicles, delivery vehicles, carers who need to go and look after people if that's what they do. They can't get through either. And it's just an absolute disaster for ordinary people all over the place.
Yeah, and it's ludicrous, but the problem is that people seem to be sleepwalking into this because they're not aware of the agenda, And last year, back in May, I actually put one of our Agenda 2030 things in my lounge window, and I actually had people knocking on the door and saying, "I never knew anything about this. I've looked it up, and it's really frightening." So, and that's a scary thing, David, that people aren't even aware of these things. They're seeing things being implemented, but they're not realizing why.
It's something it disturbs me because I know what's going on. You know what's going on. A lot of people who watch this show, they understand everything that's going on and where it's coming from, and we're trying to act against it. But you look and you wonder sometimes, 80 to 90% of the population, do they have absolutely no idea of what's coming? And it's like you say with your councillors. I often, I quite rightly bash Labour, Tory, Lib Dem, Green because they're all following this agenda, even if they don't know that they are doing it. But have you had conversations with them? You said you speak to some of the councillors and they don't really even know what's going on. If they don't know what's going on, but they're still implementing it, I wonder, how does that work?
Well, we actually, I mean, you touch on a point now. I went to a council meeting in West Suffolk last year, and some colleagues gave some information to some of the councillors, and one of the councillors came back and said, "I've looked up what you've given me, and it's frightening."
Wow.
And what's more frightening is that the councillor wasn't even aware of it, and we seem to put so much trust in these councillors, and don't get me wrong, a lot of them are doing great things, making sure that people's houses are correct and making this, don't start me on the potholes, but
Yes. Yeah.
they're doing a lot of stuff in the community, but I'm not actually looking at the problems that are coming, and that's one of the reasons why I got involved, because I was seeing a lot of things going on that just didn't make sense, and I listened to your last speaker, and what she said is right about people getting involved. I got involved for the same reasons as you, because I wanted to make a change, not a change for me, but a change for the generations that follow. A little bit of a backstory of me. I'm a youth mentor of 30 years, and I can see the way this world's going for a next generation. And that's why I can't let it go without challenging it, and I don't want young people to say to me in 15 years' time, if I'm still around, to say, Terry, why didn't you do something? So I'm doing the best I can with the hand I've been given. But when you look at what the councils are doing, the councillors are, the councillors are following the council and not listening to the people. And I think they need to remember who voted them in, because the council didn't vote them in, the people did. And so if they've got to represent the people.
When you say they're following the council, I mean, what do you mean by that? Is it because the councillors, they should be the council. They are the council. I mean, do you mean by that they are taking direction from the civil servants who work?
Yes.
Excuse me, for the council. Because each one has a chief executive officer, and
Yes.
and they're on. We discovered that many of these CEOs for councils are on extraordinary six-figure salaries, and sometimes up to £300,000 or £400,000. But they're not elected. But they seem to assume that they're in charge, and they lord it over the councillors. Is that what you see happening?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll give you two examples. So one in West Suffolk, not so many months ago, and one just last month in Thetford, where the public wasn't allowed to record what they were saying. It wasn't being recorded by the council. This is in Thetford. And so the leader of the council said, everybody out. And so all the councillors got up and walked out. And the same thing happened in West Suffolk a couple of months back, where two guys wanted to speak about something, but they were told they can't. And so the council, again, the leader of the council said, everybody out. And so all the councillors got up and walked out. And and that's the frightening thing, that the councils are telling the council, or the leader of the council, the civil servants are telling the councillors what to do.
Wow. I mean, this is not how it should be, because the councillors are elected and they should have the power. They shouldn't be told what to do by the people that they employ to work in the council. I know there is some kind of, sort of firewall between the councillors and actually the actual employment process. They don't generally sort of directly employ them. They'd have an HR department, but they shouldn't be taking instructions from them. They should be actually the ones that decide what decisions are made, and then the people who work for them should be implementing it. That's absolutely appalling. But just before we don't have too much longer, we got a couple of minutes. But I think you went up to Thetford, and that is quite known. That's near you. I think that's in Norfolk, isn't it? But there is a huge amount of resistance, and citizens are going in to the council, and they actually are. Hundreds of them went to a meeting and held the council to account, and really had a go at some of the councillors about the plans to implement a 15-minute city there. Did you go along to that meeting, and can you tell us about what's happening there, and if it's been successful?
I didn't actually go to that meeting, but off the back of that meeting, I made contact with many of the people that was leading that movement now. and I'm working closely with them, and off the back of that, what I have formed, or what we have formed in Ipswich, is a sovereign council. And the sovereign council is a group of people who are looking for the support of the public in order to hold the councils to account, because one person can't do it. But if we've got a large numbers of people who are prepared to hold the council to account, then we can make change. But again, I've always said it needs numbers. We need numbers of people to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. We need numbers. Yeah. We need numbers. It's really great. Sorry, sorry, Terry, we're coming to the end of the show, but that's really, really fantastic what you're doing in getting a group of people together to be a sovereign council, to go in and hold the council to account. But what I would also say, and I'm sure you would agree, is get involved as well and stand for the council so you can become the actual council and put in place policies which are going to be for the people and not against the people. Thank you so much for joining me, Terry, on today's News Talk TNT.